Oh shit. Are you serious? Hello, welcome back to another episode of Ironically Serious. It's your host, Taylor Hedden, and I'm so glad you're here for another episode in the new fucking year. Hello to 2025. I feel like today is actually January 1st, or really yesterday was January 1st, because I'm going to be honest. You might have been like, where are you? I took a 17-day, literally 17-day break from work, social media, all of the things. I deserved it because the last couple of months, have you know, were absolutely bonkers. And I wanted to just exist, rest, recharge, refocus. And that's exactly what I did. Now, hear me out. A lot of that recharge and refocusing was focused on eating cookies, drinking a lot of champagne and Manhattans, and doing all of the Christmas festivities you could possibly think of. If you know me or my family, my husband, my kids, we are obsessed with Christmas to a very interesting degree, where come November 28th, it is Christmas all day, every day. Everything we do is around Christmas festivities, from what we're eating to what we're wearing to what we're listening to. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad it's over. Every year about this time, I'm like, thank God, I still have 4 Christmas trees up that I need to put away. But truly, 17 days off of work. And before you come for me and say, oh, well, Taylor, I wish we could all take 17 days off. Listen, I have spent the last 5 years working my ass off in business to be able to have moments like that. And I'm not saying that's the norm. And I'm not saying I didn't occasionally check an email here or there, or I didn't think about work, but I have put boundaries in place in my business and in my life in order to be able to do that. Because if you are working to work and not working to live, you're doing it all wrong. And again, not that there are seasons of hustle, not that there are seasons where you are working around the clock all day, every day. But if you are strategic with your business, with your systems, with your reputation, with your boundaries, with your selling and marketing strategies, there is a way to take off time successfully and not lose momentum and not lose sales or income. And so over that 17 days, while I wouldn't say feet up because I was busy between kids and activities and parties and planning and wrapping and all of the things, fucking elf on the shelf. Like, whose idea was that? Can we call that person and ask them, why is this a tradition? Because every night, like clockwork, at about 11:55, I'd be like, oh shit, we got to move the elf. We got to move the elf. And not to say my kids are on social media or like they're really going to give a crap, but I get on social media and I see all of these elves on the shelves doing who knows what, all kinds of crazy shit, making freaking scenes and giving gifts and writing on the walls and building castles. And my elf on the shelf is over here, a little lazy, but he had some good nights. So between all of the Christmas shit, I still had leads coming in. I still had clients being served via workflows. I did take off from writing and the podcast and all social media content. Actually, as of right now, I'm about to post on my Instagram for the first time in 3 weeks. And you know what? The content is still there. My Instagram is still there. The business does not go away when you go away if you have prepared it correctly. And so we are back, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. Not just because it's a new year, but because I had to make some hard decisions the last couple of months that taught me a lot of lessons. And that's really what I'm going to be focusing on this podcast today, is reflecting on the freaking lessons I've learned in 2024 that really rocked my boat. And hear me out. I'm all about goal setting. I'm all about leaning into new energy, right? I think at the beginning of the year, a beginning of a quarter, certain seasons of the year, we have energy that is exciting and refreshing and makes you want to put your head down or work or try new things or push yourself in different ways. And I'm all for that. But I'm not usually one who's like a new year, new me, like let's set all these goals and map everything out. I kind of have to ease into it. I'll be honest. After the holidays, I feel like it's still December 36th. I still feel like I'm doing a little catch up. I've got one kid in school today on their first day back. I've got one going back tomorrow. I just got into office on Monday, resuming projects that were already in the books, lots of calls that were pre scheduled last month. And so I'm playing a little bit of catch up, but I am feeling that energy of excitement. And I will say, I think a lot of it is because I took that time off and I was able to just let my brain take a damn rest because I don't know about you, 2024 was a great year. It was my wedding year. It was the year I was just doing kind of a recap, and I took 15 trips last year between work and play and honeymoon and bachelorette and family trips. I mean, I got to experience and live. Truly, 2024 was life over deadlines. I think I was fully immersed in the life I was building. And I love that for me. I love that for me. And if you haven't got to experience that yet, keep building, keep hustling. That is not the norm of the past 5 years I've had. Last year was really the first year that I was able to do that I was able to take multiple weeks off at a time, that I was able to also just be confident with what I had built to sustain the experiences I was wanting to experience in life, whether it was being able to pay for certain experiences, being able to take off for certain experiences, and also being able to be present at those experiences, right? Because how often are we traveling or doing things with our kids or a family, or we start a hobby, but our mind is not there. It's not present. It's focused on emails and what I got to do when I get back in the office. And did I respond to this person, or I'm lacking in this area? No. Last year, from physical to mental to financial, I was fully living. Which brought me to January 1st, where I said, I'm going to do dry January. And let me just recap you. In 2023, I did dry January successfully. I will say I was very proud of that. I did 65 days of no alcohol and never felt better. And the months following that were few and far in between when it came to drinking. A drink maybe once or twice a month. And then 2024, I obviously said, well, goodbye, because I was getting married. I was in my bride era, and you bet your bottom dollar I was popping a bottle of champagne or bourbon anywhere I went. Did it catch up to me? Yes. I tried, tried, I tried, I tried, tried, I tried dry January last year, made it like 14 days and felt good. I felt like it was a nice little reset for a couple of weeks. And then this year I said, let me do it. I went 24 hours. And then I was like, hey guys, I'm a little thirsty. So I will say, although I'm not setting any major goals where I am like, I'm going to quit this and quit that, I am focused on balance right now. I'm focused on resetting, reflecting, and reigniting every aspect of my life, from my fitness to my business to my mental health, really all encompassing this next level that I want to get to. And I know that it's not going to be perfect. And I almost feel like when I set these big goals on paper and I tell everyone about it, it's almost sometimes, and don't take this as an excuse, but it almost puts this pressure that there's not an ebb and a flow, that there's going to be days where it's different and the goals are different. Not saying you shouldn't set goals and not saying that you shouldn't commit to those publicly and be accountable for certain things, but I really feel like the things I know I need to do are not these big goals. They're just habits. They're just habits and changes. They're not, I'm going to quit this and start this and go 50 days with this. It's like, no, I just know I need to prioritize. I need to prioritize movement. I need to prioritize good things I'm putting in my body. I need to prioritize the work life balance more on the work side than the life side, so I can make sure that I maintain the momentum and I really lean into who I'm becoming in 2024. And so we're starting this week. And really, one of the first things I've learned this year, in fact, I was yesterday years old when I learned that Cool Whip if you're a fan of Cool Whip, you know, the kind that you get in the freezer section, it actually isn't meant to be in the freezer. And I don't know why these things just bypass my tiny little squirrel brain, but I'm craving some dessert last night and I've been, trying to be a little good girl because I probably ate 7,000 million calories in cookies and cake and ice cream over the break. So I've been trying to make some better choices. And I said, well, I'm going to get a little Cool Whip, little strawberries for my dessert instead of eating ice cream or cake or chocolates. I'm obsessed with Lindor truffles. I probably ate 35 Lindor truffles last month alone, maybe more than that, maybe 2 a day. I know. We love it. But I get this Cool Whip out and I'm going to go dip my strawberries in and it's rock solid. And my husband, we're sitting there watching Sopranos, best show ever, by the way. If you haven't seen Sopranos, highly recommend. Just make sure that you're not watching it anywhere near your children because there are a lot of boobies, a lot of cussing, and a lot of killing. Just FYI. However, I'm not even eating it. I'm trying to stab the Cool Whip with my fork. And my husband is like, why do you always do that? I'm like, do what? Why are you criticizing me for eating Cool Whip? He's like, no, I'm not criticizing you for the Cool Whip. I'm criticizing you because you get it out of the freezer. It's rock solid. And it literally is like, you could like knock on that thing. It's so hard. I was like, I'll just let it thaw out a little bit. He's like, babe, you're supposed to let it thaw out in the fridge. Like, you know what I mean? And I said, well, you buy it in the freezer. So it's meant to be in the freezer. He's like, no, you thaw it and then it's Cool Whip. It's whipped. It's soft. It's delicious. Sure enough, on the label, it's like, please thaw. Wait, 30 minutes in fridge. Good for 2 weeks. So I've been eating Cool Whip wrong my entire life. I did end up putting it in the fridge last night and I will eat it tonight the correct way. So that's what we're learning in 2024 is how to properly eat desserts. But 2024, I know for some people was difficult. I think there was all this talk in the business space of changes, right? We came out of a pandemic a few years ago and people were trying to get back into life. We had a really interesting, rocky election year and civil year, a lot of division, a lot of economy issues. Business is different. The online space is different. People are spending money different. But I will say, one of the major things I learned in 2024 is just how important it is to create a consistent business structure. What I mean by that is that every year you don't need to recreate the wheel. Every year I think we're like, oh, I'm going to launch 7 products and I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a course. I'm going to, introduce these new signature offers. And sometimes it's more about perfecting what you're already doing versus trying to reinvent the wheel every single year. And I mean that by the reason I was even able to take 17 days off work and enjoy a season of true bliss and leisure during the holidays and after my honeymoon during the summer was I built a business that was supported not only by systems and automations and really, really tight processes, but I had built a reputation. I had built authority. I had built a network of not only clients, but peers and potential clients and friends in all different spaces in all different industries that when it came time to log off the computer and when it came time to not post on Instagram for 17 whole freaking days or check my email and literally have an out of office responder that said, I'll be back in 2.5 weeks. My business didn't burn to the ground. It didn't shut down. I still received leads. I still sold new things. I booked clients. I had clients who were booking while I was out of office for when I came back. And also, I built a reputation that when people are communicated with that know I'm going out of office, they're secure that when I return, they're going to be taken care of. And it wasn't about recreating this business structure in 2024 and introducing all of these things. When I entered into last year and I knew I was going to be taking time off for my wedding and I knew I wanted to enjoy business in a new way and be able to focus my year on family and friends and experiences, I knew my biggest priority was just making sure my business could operate well. There was a lack of room for newness. And I saw that last year. I introduced one new product last year. It was a summer course called Brand Boost Workshop. It was like a 3-week workshop series. It was low ticket. And I made like $3,000 off of it, which was a nice cash injection for the summer. But other than that, that was the only new thing I created last year. I did not make any major website changes. I didn't make any big investments. I didn't change any of my strategies, whether it was sales or marketing. I didn't do anything differently, but continue to show up as I had shown up and continue to lean into my expertise, which was my one signature offer. And I really think looking back at just even, I'm coming up on 6 years of this business in this online space, I'm really seeing that a lot of people want to reinvent the wheel every year. And not to say that there aren't years where you're going to up level or you're going to change or you're going to pivot or you're going to do something new, but I think we get it confused with this like constant state of newness and this constant state of pivot. Like, oh, that didn't work. Let's switch it up. Oh, that didn't work. Let's switch it up. When a lot of times it's not working because you haven't laid the foundation, you haven't put the time into it. Think of it like a diet or a fitness journey you go on, or some kind of like physical change. If you switched sports every couple weeks, you would never see progress. If you started lifting weights in 2 weeks, you're like, I haven't seen any progress, so I'm going to start running. You run for a week, you haven't seen progress. Well, I guess that doesn't work. I'm going to go ahead and pivot and do yoga. Those things take time. It takes time to lay the foundation. It takes time to create confidence in that thing. It takes time to perfect the form of that thing. Business is the same. It takes time to establish a reputable business that can run without you, whether you are a solo individual like myself, whether you have a couple of people under you, or whether you are running an agency or a brick and mortar, or you have a big team. Sometimes the growing pains are in the work you're doing over and over, perfecting, refining, tightening, right? And then there are seasons where you're like, you know what? We need to do something new. We need to introduce something new. We need to try something new. We need to switch it up. And that's exactly where I'm at right now. 2025 is panning out to be a year where I am so ready to go all in my business. And the big lessons last year, right? The big lessons I've shared a little bit about on the podcast recently are the fact that I finally experimented with getting quote unquote real jobs. And I want to talk a little about this because I think a lot of us, we constantly think the grass is greener on the other side. And not to say if you're on a 9 to 5 or if you're in a quote unquote more traditional job career path, that there's not pros to running a business or starting your own business or going and doing your own thing. So many pros. It absolutely changed my life. And then there's my girlies and whoever else might be listening to this who are on that more freedom path. You are running a business or multiple. You are working for yourself. You are making your own rules. You are making your own income. And you're looking over there at those corporate girlies like, damn, girl, your shit's stable. You got health insurance, 401k. You can clock in, you can clock out. Expenses are covered. And again, pros and cons. But I was almost disillusioned by this idea for the last couple of years that if I worked for someone else, I may feel more fulfilled. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't think I was capable of my own business or my own team. It was, okay, well, I want to be the integrator for the visionary. I want to execute bigger than I can on my own. I want to be a part of a team that's established where I can spread my wings, learn new things, go into different industries. And I did it not once, but I did it twice. If you're new here on the podcast, last year, I took on a job in August, big role, full time responsibilities, part time hours, part time pay. And I really thought I've unlocked it. I've figured it out. I can do this and be fulfilled and be so happy in a new way than I can in my own business. And so I did that. I did it for 2 months. And then I said, "Whoa, this is not what I thought it was." And I quit. And that was failure number 1. And I'm going to say failure, although I don't think it was a failure. I think it was a mistake, but a learning mistake, a really, really good mistake that I, Taylor Hedden, really, really needed to experience. Like a bad relationship, I hopped from one bad relationship to the next. So from August to October, I was working for this company. And if you know the company, no ill will, love them, love their work, not right for me whatsoever. The role, the culture, all the things, not right for me. And then I have about 4 days, literally 4 days, where I was no longer with the company. And I was like, okay, it's just me again, just me and Chanel and Lee doing my thing. I'm going to figure this out. This other shiny, beautiful, exciting opportunity wrapped in gold falls into my lap. And as you guys might know, this was the fitness studio. So the first job, I was essentially an integrator, project manager, team lead for a branding and web design education company. Fully online, fully remote, very project based, very marketing strategy heavy. The second job that came into my lap was to be the co-owner of a Pilates studio. I've talked about it here. You might be like, whoa, because I didn't really share a lot about this breakup because it was a little messy. I am essentially invited to have ownership. Thank God for those of you who might be like very curious about this. And I get it. I'm nosy as fuck. So anytime anything goes down with anyone, the first thing I do is go to Reddit and I'm like, what happened to that person? I search their name. So if you're wondering, I did not put money into it. Thank goodness. It was all sweat, time, equity. Essentially, I was working for free with the hope that we would eventually have income to pay myself with that income that the studio was making. Long story short, I join this partnership with the other owner and we were slated to open this month. I think they might still be. Congrats if they are. And quickly realized it was 1000% against really everything I have created in my business in terms of boundaries and operations and how it feels and what it feels. The unalignment was oozing from every corner of this opportunity. But when I saw the opportunity, again, dripped in gold, sounded like, a no-brainer. I don't have to put money in. I just put my time in. A lot of my role was operations and marketing, things I'm very good at, things I'm very comfortable with. The other co-owner was the Pilates expert. So I didn't need to be that. I could be the ops, I could be the systems, I could be the processes. And not only was it unaligned from a business perspective, but it was against all the boundaries and reasons I had started this business. I was away from my family constantly. I was constantly glued to my phone, feeling anxious, feeling overwhelmed, and not in a good way, not in a way like when you know your business is taking off and you're like, oh my God, I'm so busy right now, but in a good way. Like there's so many good things happening. I'm booked, I'm busy, I'm excited, there's growth. A lot of that growth is hard, but it feels really good. This was the exact opposite. And there were just lots of red flags. And I was like, okay, I'm in kind of deep right now. I'm 8 weeks in, and my name is plastered on this. We have articles written about us. We have photos, people know. And I was so afraid of what everyone would think about me if I quit this thing when I had just quit another thing. And I was feeling embarrassed, super embarrassed. And I don't get embarrassed easily. You guys know this. I talk about the craziest shit on here, like peeing my pants and doing this and doing that. But I was so embarrassed because I felt like I had failed. I felt like, am I a bad businesswoman? Am I bad at reading opportunities? When all along, one, I wasn't listening to my intuition. I wasn't looking at the red flags. And two, I was so easily being persuaded by opportunity. Shiny opportunity, looks good, sounds good, feels good, it's exciting. When in reality, all this opportunity is doing is making me avoid the work that I know I need to do in my own business and in my own life. And it's not like Chanel and Lee was struggling. I wasn't dying to make money. I wasn't going under where I needed a lifeline. I just thought these other opportunities would be better or more fulfilling or more exciting. And that's the key, right? I thought they would be more exciting. And much like a new relationship or a new diet or a new whatever, you or myself, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel this way where I get into the groove. And a lot of times, the hard work we do, it's monotonous. A lot of times, building good habits or hitting goals or making major changes and up leveling in big ways and growing in big ways, it's not all fucking exciting all the time. You're not waking up and doing all these crazy things. It's most likely a lot of the time you're doing the exact same things, but you're doing them consistently. You're doing them incrementally. You're doing them wholly. And it's not always super fun and shiny and like, let me share these big wins. It's slow progress that leads to these very, very big successes and moments where you then can look back and say, oh my God, I did it. Like when I was building Chanel and Lee and there was nothing exciting happened, but every single day I was showing up and I was working and I was building brick by brick by brick. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't all this like fun, oh my gosh, this and new work and cool skills and this. It was chipping away little tiny chips into this massive big picture. And these opportunities that came up, maybe you can relate. Maybe you get these opportunities where you're like, I could totally say yes to this. This is awesome. This feels cool. This is exciting. And before you say yes, you may really want to ask yourself, what are you actually avoiding in all of that? For me, I know that I've been very comfortable in my business. I haven't done anything new with reason. Like I said, I really built up for this year of ease and flow and stability in the business so I could enjoy the season of life I was in with family and marriage and travel and all of these things in my Mrs. Hedden era. But I knew those shiny new opportunities were going to keep me from doing the work that I was slowly avoiding, like reimagining my business, like putting real time and real work into new efforts, like a new marketing strategy or deep sales. I look back at 2024 and I'm like, dude, I was coasting. I was coasting. And my income didn't drop. It was the exact same as 2023 as it was in 2024. But I feel like I worked a lot more in 2023 and didn't do as much, I guess you could say, quote unquote, fun and travel and family and all of this. But I made the same amount of money, which tells me I was comfortable with what I had put into place. But when I look at the business, I know there's so much more I'm capable of. There's so much more I want to do. There's so much more impact I want to have. And these opportunities are just distractions. And I'm not saying all opportunities are. And my husband shared a podcast with me, and I can't remember who the podcast was or the name of the podcast, unfortunately. However, they were talking a lot about this idea of we say yes to things, and not that that thing couldn't have great possibilities or outcomes. But when you're already building something, you really have to look at, is this opportunity truly aligned with what I'm trying to build, or is this just a distraction from what I'm working on? My husband put it in a perfect way. I wish I could just have him like step in real quick for this podcast, but he put it in a perfect way for me to understand. And that was essentially looking at it like a percentage, right? If I know right now I'm 80% in to the business of this building this business that I have envisioned in my head and the impact and the level that it could be. Yes, I made a lot of progress in 5 years. I went from 0% to 80%, or we could even say 50% in this regard, right? And that initial growth happens quickly. Just like when you first start running, when you first start working out, the baby gains are real. They happen fast. And that's that excitement that's going to drive you for the next long, slow growth process. So you get to this 50%, and then all of a sudden, what took you only 3 years to get to 50%, now to get to 55% is going to take you way more time and way more effort and way more focus, because you kind of got past that first big rise, right? You got past those big growth goals. And now, if you can see my hands in the video, now the growth is a little bit more steady. You're still inclining, but it's a little bit more steady. There's more work that's going into it. And taking all these jobs and these things and saying yes to these people that I shouldn't have been working with, I shouldn't have even been fascinating about these different day to days I could be having that weren't actually aligned with the real vision that I want to have. Yeah, I was making progress quick. The affirmation was great. You're doing amazing. I'm doing so good. I'm integrating. There's quick skills, there's quick wins. It's like, yes. And then the reality sets in that, oh, this is going to look a lot different than I imagined it in my mind. And now that the initial excitement and shininess is over, like a new relationship, you're like, oh my God, this is so fun. We're so exciting. We had our first kiss, then we did this, now we're dating. And then you're like, okay, now the work comes in. And then you really start to discover if you're in it or if you're not. And that's exactly where I was November, I think it was November 27th. It was right after Thanksgiving, is when I broke it off with the Pilates studio. And I said, you know what? I need to stop trying to build a vision that is not even aligned with where I want to go. And it may feel good right now. It may sound exciting. It may sound promising. And maybe there really is real promises to it. If it's not aligned with the future me I want to be in 1 year, 5 years, 8 years, I don't need to do it. And that brings you to a real important question: is who even do you want to be in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Because if you don't even know that, how do you even have the discernment to say yes or no to those opportunities that are going to blindside you and that are going to distract you and all of these things? This is a perfect example. Embarrassingly, again, I would say not embarrassingly, the reality of business is that you're going to fuck up and you're going to make mistakes. The reality of anything in life. I'm just in a very much of a business mode right now. The reality of anything in life is that you're going to fuck up. It's not will you fuck up, it's when will you fuck up. And I'm not saying it's going to be massive or this big failure, but you're going to make mistakes. You are going to make mistakes in your business, in your marriage, in your parenting, in relationships, whatever you're doing, you are bound to make a mistake. And one mistake that I made recently, I had to, for the first time ever in over a decade of owning businesses, because I've owned a business when I was in college. And now, again, almost 6 years into this industry, I had my first ever client refund that I had to issue a few weeks ago. And it was a significant amount. And the embarrassment, the feeling of like disappointment, all of the things were very real. And I say this to be so honest and transparent. I don't take it lightly, but I can see exactly why it happened. It's like it's written into the fucking stars, because once again, last year, chasing all these exciting new things, I told myself, I'm going to start an agency. I'm going to do this whole new business idea while my business is here slowly just, moving along. And I signed some clients as beta clients to build some websites and do some other things outside of my normal scope. And I had an unhappy client. And it wasn't that I wasn't capable of the work that they were wanting me to do. It's that I wasn't all in it. I clearly booked someone who I was not the best fit for. At the time, I thought I was. And I was chasing this new business idea that I didn't follow through with because I got the other job and then the other job. And this project delayed. And then it wasn't the best fit from a work perspective, and the client was unhappy, and then there were hard conversations, and finally it was, I want a refund. And that in and of itself was a huge lesson and it's not like it was a long time ago, this was like a week ago, that I am learning you really, really should not say yes to every single thing just because you can do it, just because it sounds exciting, just because you even want to do it. If you don't know where you're trying to go and get clear as fuck on what that looks like from every angle, you are going to continue saying yes to things that are not meant for you. And they're not always going to end in a refund or a breakup or a terrible job that you committed to that you basically worked for free for 8 weeks and got nothing out of it except learning experiences. Sometimes it's just dissatisfaction. You say yes to someone, you work with them. It's not bad, it's not good. You're just like, wow, that was all right. I mean, it happened. And that's not how business should be. That's not how your path should feel when you are like fully aligned and fully invested in where you're trying to go. Those clients, that work, what you say yes to, it's either going to add to your business or it's not. It's going to add to your growth or it's not. And a lot of times, those little things we're like, oh, yeah, I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Let's add that on. It's based out of a lot of times you need the money, you think it's going to be exciting, you want to take on more clients, you want to build faster, or simply put, you're avoiding. You're avoiding the real work that needs to happen. And it's a story we hear in business all the time online. Not everything needs to be a yes. And in fact, what I've heard many times, and I've always thought, oh, yeah, okay, okay, but this is really where I'm sitting right now. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. Just being completely candid. And one thing that reframed is starting to reframe my thoughts that I saw this recently somewhere. And instead of saying, I can't do something, if you're like me and you're an ultimate people pleaser, not just with other people, but with yourself, reframe it as this isn't a priority right now. This particular project or this particular thing or this new idea, is it a priority or is it not? That doesn't mean it has to be a no or a yes right now. Maybe it's a yes later, but is it a priority? And if it's not a priority, it's a no, plain and simple. But you have to figure out what those priorities are. You have to figure out where in all of this am I going and what in all of this is going to get me there. I actually did something for the first time ever. I better get a freaking clap right now. I did some journaling, and I'm not a big fan of journaling, but I have been feeling, I wouldn't even say discombobulated, but I've been feeling like I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the next move is. I'm not sure what the next step is. I know for damn sure I have work to do, not only on myself personally, but in my business. I know there's a lot of work to do. I know there's a lot of places that I've gotten really comfortable. I've been really lax on so many things in my business that could have significant impact on growth, on leads, on all kinds of things. And I thought to myself, what better way to get clear than to journal? And I was listening to some Mel Robbins, and one of the podcasts she had a doctor on talked about how journaling really is meditation. There's a lot of grounding that can happen in meditation. There's a lot of breath work that can happen whenever we are journaling in that form of meditation. And so I took a book that I was gifted called The CEO Method. Now, the book itself, not super applicable to where I'm at right now in life. If you are someone who is wanting to start a business, or you're finally feeling like this is the year you want to go all in on yourself or your idea, or step out of the comfort zone of 9 to 5, the book is great. It's called The CEO Method. But in the book itself, I was gifted this book at a conference I went to. There's all these journaling prompts about where you're at right now, how you're feeling right now. And then once you've written down, or if you're like myself, you've ripped yourself a new asshole in the journal about how shitty you are, a little self deprecating, but it's fine. Once you figure out where you're at and where you're lacking, you then, instead of just moving to your goals, okay, now that I know where I'm at, like what goals am I setting? You position your thoughts and your journaling on where, what is this going to look like in this perfect vision of myself? So, how am I feeling right now? But if I were to accomplish these things that I'm feeling or envisioning, what would life look like then? And not just like what would it feel like, but what is my day to day? What am I doing with my time? What are people saying about me? What am I saying about myself? What kind of hobbies do I have? All of these things to help you get clear on that person. And if you haven't listened to the episode I just recently had with Shelby Hale, who is an alignment coach and business coach, that episode is so bomb. If you're in this mode right now, like I am, of reimagining and rediscovering your path, go listen to that episode right now and then do the journaling prompts. Get clear and ask yourself the questions of like, what is the current state of affairs of myself, my business, my family? And then what is that perfect vision? Almost get a manifesty, a little woo woo with it. What would everything look and feel like? How would I operate? What would my health be like? What would my hobbies be like? And then you can start to bridge the gap of, okay, if that's the ideal, you can start to understand what you need to say yes or no to. Let's just say, for example, for me, having time with my kids at home after school, top priority. I do not want to be working after 5 o'clock. Sometimes I have to, admittedly, and sometimes it's my fault that I have to. Sometimes I procrastinate, I don't plan well, and that's on me. However, I am in control of my boundaries in business. And one thing I learned with both of the jobs I took last year outside of this business, they both overstepped my nighttime boundaries of family, family dinner, kids. At the end of the day, my kids are only kids for so long. And that is right now in this season of life, a number one priority. So if that's a priority and that's what I'm envisioning in 2 years, I can sit down and have dinner with my kids every single night and not have to be on my phone or working or someone needs me outside of my household. That can guide me to make decisions. If an opportunity comes up and they say, oh, well, yeah, sometimes we do evening meetings, instead of me saying, okay, that's fine, we'll work around it, it's no, sorry, that's not a priority right now for me. This is the priority. Now, if I can do that thing and respect these boundaries and this vision I've put in place for how my life is going to look and feel, then I can think about it. All of this is part of this evolving process, I think, of defining ourselves, defining our vision, and ultimately what our business is going to look and feel like and how it's going to play out into our lives. And while, yes, I've had a great fucking year, 2024 was so good. And if it wasn't good for you, hey, you know what? We've all had those years. I've had the years that felt like there was no end in sight to the work and the struggles and the growth and all of the things. And then you have years where you put in that work, you get clear, and you can sit back and enjoy the fruit of your labor. But if you're anything like me, then the work comes back. And I don't know, I just really feel like the theme I've learned as well from this past year is, how you spend your time is who you become completely. And good or bad, how you spend your time and how you operate becomes the story of your life. And so if you are constantly operating in fight or flight, you're constantly overworking, overbooking, you're constantly saying yes to things that are bringing you anxiety or not aligned, not giving you joy, that becomes your reality. It becomes who you are. It's not just a blip on the timeline. It slowly becomes your day, and your day becomes your time, and that time becomes your memories, and every single aspect of your life is based around those habits you create and the day to day you create. And if you want to become someone who has balance and who is able to achieve hard shit and who does things they say they're going to do, it takes work. It takes a lot of reflection, which is exactly what I've been doing this week. It takes a lot of consistency, which is what I haven't been doing the past year. It takes a lot of real conversations and check ins with yourself to say, is this what I want? And sometimes it's someone else who's going to help you break that barrier. For me this year, my husband, thank God for him and the communication we've built for me to be able to just talk about these things, because I was fully committed to these jobs where I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to power through and see it through. And he was saying, why? If you know it's not right for you, like, why even continue any day longer? Why waste any more time outside of your business if you know that's not what you want to be? And that also takes guts. It also takes self awareness to say, you know what, that's okay to change your mind. It's okay to go backwards, even. For me, I felt like I went forwards and I went backwards 3 times last year. And now I'm exactly where I was when I started in 2024. Good place to be, but not where I want to be. And that is the key, to know you can be in a good spot, but there can still be amazing work to be done. And it's really going to be in the small habits, the day to day, and constantly asking yourself, is this what I'm working for? Is this even who I want to be, where I want to be? The last thing I'll mention that I want to encourage you to do this year, and something I want you to focus on that really impacted me in 2024 and has impacted me in the past, is doing something hard. And I'm seeing this a little bit because of that comfort zone I've been in last year, but there was a really big pivotal moment that gave me this level of confidence I didn't even really know I had. And for me, it was running my half marathon and completing it. And the reason why, and Shelby Hale talks a little bit about this in our last episode, when you commit to something hard and you actually put in the work to do it, and then you do it and you complete it, there is an absolute level of confidence and empowerment that you give your subconscious that tells you, okay, I can accomplish hard things. If I put my mind to it, I have the power, the willpower, the ability to actually see it through and to keep myself accountable and to do that hard thing. And that confidence is going to help make the next hard thing a little bit easier. I had never run before until I started running in 2023. I had never even cared to do it. And I don't know why I committed to this, but I was like, you know what? I want to do this. My husband runs and I was very inspired and I was wanting to do something exciting, which this was exciting, but it was really hard. I trained hard for it, and the day of running that 13 miles, I hated every fucking second of it. I wanted to cry. At many points I told myself I should just walk and I should just go sit right there on that ground and cry, but I didn't. And people do a lot harder stuff than that, but for me that was hard. It was new, it was difficult. I prepared for months for it and I completed it, and I was so proud that I was able to complete something so hard. What this year are you committing to that's difficult? Think about it. Is there anything that you are committing to that's actually going to be difficult for you? Not just a goal of like, okay, I want to increase my followers by 1,000. Like, more specific than that. Is there something that you are doing and committing to that's actually going to challenge you and push you somewhere you have not been before? Because if you can do that, who you become on the other side is someone who is just even more capable of the next hard thing. The confidence you will feel to be able to take that confidence into your business or your relationships or whatever you're working on in your professional life, it's insane how that can be applied and give you the courage to do something else, do the next thing, do the next hard thing. And so if you haven't challenged yourself to anything yet, be thinking about it. What can you accomplish this year that's going to not only make you feel so damn good that you said, I did that and I'm proud of that, but that also really pushes you? Not something easy. You're like, oh, okay, I can go do this thing and it's really easy for me and it's all good and great. No, something that's actually going to push you to be a better person mentally, physically, whatever it might be. Find that thing. And when you do it, come tell me, because I will cheer you the fuck on. There is nothing like accomplishing something hard and seeing who you can be on the other side of it. All in all, I hope you have absolutely enjoyed this episode. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to talk about, but I knew that I was feeling excited for this new year, and I hope you are too. And I have some really incredible guests coming up in the next couple of weeks that I'm really excited to have conversations with, excited for you to hear. And this year's going to be great. This year is going to be, we're going to speak it into existence right now. This year is going to be everything, and I believe you have the power to hit whatever goals you're putting into place. I believe you have the power to make this year the best year you have ever had. But you have to promise me one thing. You have to promise me that you are going to try your hardest. You're going to put in the work and you're going to show up as that person who has already done those things, and watch how this year plays out. I believe in you. I love you. Thank you for listening. As always, share this podcast with a friend if something spoke to you. Maybe someone needs to hear this message today. And I will see you guys right here. No more breaks for now next week on Ironically Serious.